Too bad every day can't be a Sunday, huh?
That is a marvelous idea.
What's a marvelous idea?
You may get back into bed now, Master. Today is Sunday.
Barbara Eden will always be remembered as the magical genie on the beloved TV series I Dream of Jeannie. Get ready for a spine-tingling glimpse at the legendary Barbara Eden, who, at 91 years old, will send shivers down your spine. Some might argue that Barbara Eden disproves conventional wisdom about the meaning of age by demonstrating that it is just a numerical value. On the other hand, some people have seen the newly released images and were shocked by her transformation. But before we look at these photos, let's examine Barbara Eden's early life, the one who overcame family troubles, obstacles, and highs and lows, to see how she came to have the appearance she has now. Background and family difficulties. Barbara Eden was born in Tucson, Arizona, but her formative years were defined by the separation of her parents when she was only 3 years old. There wasn't enough money to go around while Barbara and her mom were going through a hard patch because of family issues. They sought solace with Barbara's grandparents in El Paso, Texas, and relocated there. Barbara had a unique relationship with her grandpa. She respected and admired him much since he was there for her no matter what. He became a rock in her life, a dependable companion who helped her overcome the difficulties brought on by their precarious condition. A great deal of Barbara's fortitude and will stemmed from the love she had for her grandpa. Change came to Barbara's life again after she had lived in El Paso for a while, and this time it took her to the legendary city of San Francisco. When Barbara's mother remarried, she brought a stepfather into their complex family dynamic, marking the beginning of yet another chapter in their family history. Despite the fact that Barbara and her family dealt with persistent financial issues, she has a fond memory of this period. Even though they were going through a lot, she is able to find pleasure in remembering things like roller skating on the wharf and her stepfather's passion for fishing. The constant strain on Barbara Eden's family bonds caused by their financial struggles made for a difficult existence. The fact that they had to welcome extended family into their house on occasion demonstrated the resilience required to face adversity. Since Barbara's parents divorced when she was a little girl, she had a tough time making ends meet, moved about a lot, and had to adjust to a life that was always changing. The resilience and dogged determination that would characterize Barbara's journey beyond the glitz of cinematic stardom were forged in these formative years. Through the trials and tribulations she endured, she rose to fame, becoming an iconic figure thanks to her portrayal of Jeannie in the beloved TV series I Dream of Jeannie, launching a career and overcoming obstacles in Hollywood. Barbara Eden had a varied acting career prior to her role in I Dream of Jeannie. She was in Dallas, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Harper Valley PTA, among other shows. Aside from that, she returned for 2 more I Dream of Jeannie films. My Adventures with Santa, released in 2019, was her most recent film appearance. She clung to the good times despite the fact that her family was struggling financially. The family's financial woes forced Barbara's aunt and uncle to reside with them, which resulted in several school changes and moves. While residing in 5 separate residences in San Francisco, Barbara attended 5 separate schools. In her biography, Jeannie Out of the Bottle, she paints her family as carefree despite this turmoil. Even though he worked as a telephone lineman, her stepfather's job didn't pay very well. They were still able to love, laugh, and dream, despite the financial hardships they faced throughout the Depression. Despite financial constraints, Barbara Eden's passion for the entertainment industry flourished. Following her heart, she sang at community gatherings and participated in other pursuits she loved. She triumphed against adversity to become Miss San Francisco in 1951, a watershed event that set the stage for her extraordinary path. Barbara recalled a turning point in her life when her acting instructor suggested she try out for a beauty contest to conquer her shyness. She was ashamed to stand in front of the crowd in her swimsuit, which was the first intimidating thing. Nevertheless, she gained wisdom from the ordeal, and it marked a turning point in her life. the fact that she persisted through her doubts and ultimately won. The Crown was a watershed moment in her incredible career in show business. Beyond the goal of fame, Barbara Eden's Hollywood effort was a fight against systemic sexism and body shaming. The pervasive misogyny in the business was brought to light after an early interaction with a Warner Brothers talent scout. Barbara stubbornly refused to comply to false beauty standards, even when many told her she required a certain body type. By opting to play supporting roles instead, she made a strong statement against Hollywood's objectification of women. Her strength was shown by her unwavering determination to perfect her trade. 6 months after the scout had rejected Barbara because of her appearance, Barbara ran into him again on the Warner Brothers set. Ironically, he acknowledged her potential but failed to identify her, instead expressing a desire to screen test her. A major lesson was learned by the scout's behavior change. Things aren't always as they seem. Aspiring performers with similar prejudices found encouragement in Barbara's path through Hollywood's hurdles, which highlighted the need of self-belief and determination. Life outside of work and relationships. Along with her professional successes, Barbara Eden's career in Hollywood was fraught with love, heartache, and lessons learned. Her personal life also took some unexpected turns. There was an instant spark on a blind date with Michael Ansara, a famous TV personality. But things were tricky because of her friendship with Tony, the guy who delivered refrigerators. My mental discomfort escalated to a worrying extent after breaking up with Tony. To make sure everyone was secure, Barbara banned Tony from the set. When Tony attempted suicide, the difficulties in her personal life reached a breaking point, and she needed help immediately. In the midst of a potentially fatal situation, Barbara and Michael Ansara, who would later become her husband, hurried to the scene. The relief that Tony managed to live changed Barbara's view of Michael forever. Actors' personal sacrifices and the tremendous influence of their actions on people around them were brought to light at this difficult period of Barbara Eden's life, which emphasized the complexity of love in the Hollywood limelight. In spite of everything, she learned a lot about breaking barriers in the profession via her interactions with legendary actors like Desi Arnaz. Lucille Ball's humility and kindness gave Barbara a contrastive look at the real people behind the Hollywood mask, and she came away from the experience with a new respect for honesty in the entertainment industry. Larry Hagman's battle with alcoholism created some tension behind the scenes of the iconic television program I Dream of Jeannie, where Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman famously worked together. Barbara Eden fought with the producers who were thinking about firing him because she didn't want him dismissed. She thought it would be really foolish to fire him since she saw potential in him. Another source of tension was Larry Hagman's dissatisfaction with the writing. When Barbara Eden lost her second child in 1971, it was a very painful moment for her. Returning to work shortly thereafter, she attempted to manage her sadness while on set, despite the fact that she was dealing with a lot of emotions. Barbara Eden's physical and mental changes during this period were clear indicators that she was losing weight. Barbara also had an unspoken battle. She didn't know that postpartum depression may be the cause of her extreme misery, change, and enduring presence. Barbara Eden's flexibility as an actor was on full display as she deftly moved through a number of film and television roles throughout the years. Viewers of all ages were captivated by her talent for skillfully blending comedy and drama. Both the persona she brought to life on film and the encouragement she gives to people of all ages are part of her lasting legacy, which proves that charm and skill are timeless. Divorce and postpartum depression, a complicated tale. Postpartum depression was discussed by Barbara Eden in her own words as she reflected on her challenges. Even though she didn't know it, postpartum depression was the root reason of her happy outlook on life as a mother and wife, which she would display whenever she returned home and looked at her small son. She endured the shame of seeking mental health treatment as she suffered in silence at a time when no one understood her illness. Her marriage to Michael Ansara was severely damaged by the unspoken pain she endured as a result of a miscarriage and untreated postpartum depression, After enduring an unimaginably devastating loss and crippling sorrow, they were unable to continue their 15-year marriage. There was an apparent insurmountable pressure on their relationship, which Barbara Eden said was caused by her severe melancholy. They had a rocky marriage, which she detailed in her biography, Genie Out of the Bottle. Even though they tried to talk things out, the gap between them appeared to grow wider with each exchange. Barbara horrified Michael Ansara by startling him with the hard choice to seek a divorce as the emotional toll of their shared sorrow mounted. Officially divorcing in 1973, the couple ended their once promising and loving marriage. The effect on Barbara Eden and her son Matthew of the divorce was particularly painful. Michael was awarded custody of their kid after Barbara's second marriage, and subsequent move to Chicago put him in that position. Because of the great emotional strain of being apart from her son, Barbara often shed tears as she tried to make sense of her situation. Barbara expressed her profound sadness in her book after learning in retrospect the long-term implications of the divorce on Matthew. Barbara Eden thought about staying in the marriage until Matthew was an adult because she wished she had seen the future, and because the consequences for Matthew were terrible. Nevertheless, the difficult choice to divorce was brought about by insurmountable obstacles, additional difficulties, and a second marriage. With optimism and a yearning for love and joy, Barbara Eden began her second marriage in 1977. At first glance, Chuck Fager, a marketing professional, seemed to be the ideal companion for her after the pain of her first divorce and her subsequent feelings of isolation. Their once promising romance took a dramatic turn after 8 months when Barbara found out that Chuck Fager was still married. Her shock at the news further strained the trust that had united them and added an air of deceit to their relationship. The scenario became much more complicated when Chuck Fager tried to minimize it and tell Barbara that it didn't matter because he was divorcing her. The lie about Chuck Fager's marital status stayed with Barbara's mother even after he tried to win her over with his salesmanship. His dishonesty tainted their early phases of their relationship, and Barbara's mother understandably never really forgave him. Barbara Eden's marriage to Fager was troubled for reasons beyond the secret marriage scandal. Over time, he encountered more difficulties due to his intense desire for fame and attention. Their marriage took a turn for the worst when Fager started hanging out with a group of people who drank too much and used cocaine, which strained their relationship even more and led to physical and mental violence. Barbara Eden took the difficult choice to terminate the marriage in order to prioritize her own safety and well-being in the face of increasing violence. The second marriage, which had all the makings of a happy ending at first, fell apart because of dishonesty, different priorities, and the negative impact of drug misuse, a son's desperation, and the sadness of loss. After Barbara Eden returned to Los Angeles in 1983, she and her family were hit with a tragic shock that changed their lives forever. The joy she had received from her son, Matthew Ansara, had faded away as he had become someone she could hardly recognize. Barbara Eden told ABC News that Matthew had kept a terrible secret from his parents for years, his struggle with heroin addiction. Barbara had a deep and painful awakening when she learned about her son's secret battle. She and her ex-husband Michael Ansara had been in the dark about their son's tragedy, she realized at this difficult time. Barbara did not learn of Matthew's difficulties to their full degree until he was 19 years old. Surprisingly, he started taking narcotics when he was only 10 years old. She expressed her strong view that drugs should never be available to youngsters and emphasized the necessity for watchful monitoring and prevention. After this painful discovery, filled her with remorse. Michael Ansara, Barbara Eden's ex-husband, and Eden herself came together to take action. In an effort to help Matthew get well, they made the tough choice to have him in a rehabilitation program. Addiction does not lend itself to simple answers, therefore the road to recovery was long and winding. As Matthew fought his addiction and began the long, difficult road to recovery, his loved ones endured the constant uphill battle. Dealing with her son, Matthew's addiction was a heartbreaking ordeal for Barbara Eden for 14 years. Multiple stints in recovery institutions characterized the turbulent and grueling path. The parents were taken aback by the sudden and often violent changes in their son Matthew's conduct, which they had a hard time recognizing at first as being related to his addiction. Barbara Eden had a tough time dealing with the issue since her son Matthew was too young to comprehend the seriousness of his addiction and the need of recovery and help. Barbara Eden had reached a breaking point in her battle against her son's drug usage when she had to make the terrible choice to inform him he couldn't stay in her house any longer. With nowhere else to go, Matthew set off on his own, and his worried parents wasted no time in finding him. Matthew spent many years of his life sleeping on the streets after making this choice, which left him without a home. Despite her overwhelming need to meet her son, Barbara Eden struggled to trust him while he was so defenseless. She took care to feed him so he wouldn't go hungry, but their relationship deteriorated, and trust was never restored due to his drug abuse. The loss of her mother was another tragic event in Barbara's life. Although Barbara Eden thought her mother was rather fashionable, the two of them had a strong, intimate, and treasured relationship. Barbara owes her passion for singing to her mother, who was a credit manager at a jewelry business and a great educator. As Barbara reflected of their shared nights of dishwashing to the sweet melodies of Gilbert and Sullivan ditties, she felt a pang of nostalgia. On the other hand, Barbara Eden's book details the lengthy and agonizing struggle her mother endured after receiving the devastating diagnosis of lung cancer. Upon learning of her mother's secret struggle, Barbara faced an agonizing turn of events that became the most tragic event in their shared existence. The tragic death of Barbara Eden's son, Matthew Ansara, from a heroin overdose occurred in 2001. Matthew was a popular former comedy star. Tragically, Matthew's life was cut short despite his encouraging path to recovery and involvement. Barbara broke the news to him that after a while of sobriety, Matthew's heart stopped beating due to the devastating effects of only one dose of heroin. When Barbara Eden's son Matthew died suddenly, she was devastated. As she tried to make sense of his drug use, she experienced a range of intense feelings. She felt terrible and furious as the loss rocked her sense of security. Some of the responsibility for what transpired was on Barbara's shoulders. She went through a difficult period of mourning, dealing with such a significant loss that she was in a condition of almost continual weeping. Sharing her experience, Barbara Eden served as a potent reminder of the precarious nature of life and the destructive force of addiction. She spoke frankly on the difficulties faced by families coping with drug usage. She reached out to other parents who were going through the same thing by sharing her story of her child's addiction and their challenges with raising awareness. Barbara emphasized that parents should be alert and ready to assist in these kinds of circumstances. At 91 years old, preserving her ageless glamour. How, however, does Barbara Eden, who is in her 90s and yet looks stunning despite all the hardships she has endured? Barbara, who is 91 years old, places a premium on being physically healthy. Vegetables and lean meats are the mainstays of her diet, which is rich in protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Cardio and aerobic workouts are a regular part of Barbara's regimen, and she enjoys activities like walking and spinning on her bike. Even if she didn't say it, her body definitely incorporates strength training, which is essential for toning muscles beyond 30. When Barbara goes outside, she always applies sunscreen as part of her skincare regimen. She uses line repair serum drops and an Estee Lauder skincare product religiously. In keeping with her dedication to total health and fitness, Barbara made the surprising confession that she never wears cosmetics unless she's really working. In her own style, 91-year-old Barbara adds, "I always wear sunglasses with a high UV rating whether working on my farm or flying." While aging is unavoidable, Barbara Eden shows that it need not be a given by highlighting the significance of a healthy diet, regular exercise, and a positive lifestyle. The narrative of Barbara Eden's resilience, compassion, and faith in a future beyond sorrow is an inspiring one. Her activism demonstrated tenacity and the ability to channel one's suffering into constructive action. A tale of courage, determination, and tenacity unfolds throughout Barbara Eden's life. She has shown time and time again that she can triumph over hardship, whether it be in her formative years, throughout her stellar profession, or in her personal battles. Her long reputation and classic good looks show that physical age doesn't matter as much as inner fortitude. Please share your opinions about Barbara Eden in the comments section and consider subscribing to the channel. Has age caught up with her, or does she still have a nice look? Report it to us. Much obliged for your time.